Or am I okay?
No, you're breaking up. No, you're not breaking up. You're actually okay, and we're
No?
live. We're live. Hello, everyone. This is the Real United Talk. Apologies for Jessica saying, is she breaking up? She's not. She's on the far side of planet Earth. It's me, Rodney Cyrus, and Jessica in the house. We're waiting for one more person, but they are tardy. They have not arrived, so we're starting without them. George, if you see this, check your DMs. This is the Manchester United semi-final review. We have let the dust settle to see what really went on, and we're going to go through the game and talk about what it was for us as fans and see if we can get your opinions, and also just ask the question: are fans really happy? Are they happy with the end of the season, where the team finished, and are they happy with the lack of trophies? I can see there's one comment already. Let me see who this is. This is probably Mr. Mad Marcus saying, better not be late. We weren't late, sir. Someone else was. Jessica, Manchester United, did you watch the game, obviously? What were your thoughts before the game and what were your thoughts after the game?
My thoughts before the game was I was very, 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 very nervous because
Very
you never know
nervous.
which Manchester United is going to show up. Yeah. And my thoughts after the game were that I was really, really disappointed for Ole. I didn't feel
Really
that
disappointed.
for me, I very quickly I was upset. I was disappointed, but I very quickly kind of reframed that to be that, in my opinion, and listening to Ole a little bit after the game too, I think that if we had won that game, there is no way on this planet that they were going to bring anybody in. And I think that maybe, although it's yet to be seen, it is the United Glazers and Co.
Oh,
Maybe getting into the final or winning a push for them to do something for the Champions League.
all right. We just lost you for
Maybe.
a mo.
Hi, George.
We just lost you
Oh,
for a second there, Jessica. So hopefully that's not going to be a
oh,
thing. George is in the house, looking. He's looking every bit the man from Del Monte. He's looking like the man, the black, the man who delivers chocolates at the dead of night in a dark suit, climbing down windows. How are you, George?
I'm good, thank you. Rodney, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I might as well, since you're here, what were your thoughts before the game and what were your thoughts after the game?
Um, it's very easy sometimes in sort of hindsight to say that potentially he went with the wrong team. But obviously, I wasn't I wasn't overly elated when I did see the team because, and I think a lot of people have sort of said retrospectively as well that in a lot of the semi-finals that Ollie has, because we've now been in 3 semi-finals and obviously not not got through any of them this season. We had obviously the League Cup, FA Cup, and now the Europa League. And in none of those, he doesn't really seem to tend to have played his best team. We've seen again Fred coming in and playing instead of Nemanja Matic, and also I think defensively we were quite poor, but at the same time I think we should have had enough for Sevilla because they are a good team, but they're not necessarily. We definitely were the better team in terms of the overall play, but sadly, if you're not clinical or ruthless enough in front of goal, which we weren't, and there was a period in that first part of that second half where we should have had the game out of sight. There was a few, obviously Anthony Martial in particular had a couple of one-on-ones where he should have really buried them. And sadly, when that happens, then they're always going to have that the time that's where they comes back to haunt you. Obviously, after the game, I think the overriding sense is one of disappointment because, again, of course, it means it's a trophyless season, and I think that's now 3 seasons in a row that United haven't won a trophy. So I think that was the last time that happened was back in the 80s. So it's getting to be quite a habit now, and particularly this season as well. With, as I said, that obviously the semi-final stumbling block, which seems to have cropped up in 3 separate competitions. We're getting a bit of an unwanted reputation for bottling it in these obviously key and crucial matches in terms of winning silverware. So yeah, as I said, it's overall it's one of disappointment, but we try and go again in the new season, and hopefully we can bring in some acquisitions in the summer transfer market. So yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? I want to come back to the transfers a little bit later, but we've spoken obviously before, George, and you talked about Fred, and I jested with you with the whole Fred watch. But I'm going to ask Jessica, when you saw Fred in the team, would you agree with George about it not being the strongest team? Would you have been upset? Or would you have agreed with George in terms of we needed Matic for that game?
Yeah, I think he should have played Matic. I think Ole seems to, I listened to an interview. I'm not sure. I don't think it was the post-match one, but maybe immediately post-match. But and they asked him about the substitute situation as well. I think he overthinks it. I think he like forward thinks everything and sort of tries to map it out way too in advance instead of just dealing with the game. He was thinking of, how can we manage the team and keep everybody fit, and instead of just let's put the best team out, like at Chelsea, they should have put the strongest team out, get the goals, and then they could have shut it down, right? Taking people off. And I do think he's a little bit, and I think he in himself kind of was reflecting on that and noted that in a way in one of the interviews I saw.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the subs, he should have brought the subs on way earlier.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with either of you, which is really funny. If we go back 12 months to this month, Matic was a dead man walking in United's team. In terms of Ole's eyes, he wasn't part of his squad. In terms of the fan base, everyone was saying, he's too slow. He slows the play down. But we reach a semi-final and everyone's moaning that he didn't start the game. This over 31 years of age midfielder whose legs are going, we're saying that he's a better player than the sprightly mid-20s Fred, who cost £50 million. I can't disagree with you in terms of what Matic adds to the team, but I would have said 12 months ago he was one of the best midfielders in that Manchester United midfield. But what this demonstrates in terms of the time lapse from then until now is that Ole wasn't man enough to know who his best team was. He tried to do too much to favour the fan base. And then you reach 3 semi-finals. Yeah. And let's say this one was the most important one because you bottled the FA Cup, which you should never have bottled. And then you play arguably a weakened team, not necessarily a weaker team, a weakened team by not including Matic. But even with Fred in that team, I would be hard pressed to say anyone had a bad game in that game. I would be hard pressed to point the finger at someone and say they were shit. Any one of them. I would. I'd literally have to go. I watched the game again 3 times, and I'm struggling to actually say who had a bad game. I don't know about you. What do you guys think? George, do you think? Apart from Fred, obviously.
Don't you think that game, there were periods in that game where it was absolutely phenomenal football for Manchester United.
Yeah,
it was brilliant. The football that we want to see, right? It was brilliant football. And there's and Ole said this himself. He said there's something with these players where they do this and then they somehow sit back. And it's almost like a mental thing with them that they have to get over to be able to get to that next point. Because I thought some of that football was absolutely outstanding. The link-up play, you can see what they're trying to get these guys to do. So I don't know what that thing is. There's something. Something. I don't know what it is, but I felt that was probably one of the best games of football they've played in periods, right?
Yeah. George, if you could put your finger on anyone and say who had a bad game, who would it be?
No one had, what we might deem an archetypal bad game, but there were bad moments in moments of that match. And unfortunately, when you're playing at the highest level of professional football, you have a game. And unfortunately, like I said, if in terms of where I felt that match was lost, it was obviously there were some defensive lapses at the back, obviously for the 2 goals. Some really poor marking on those goals as well, because both of them were sort of, you know, crosses as well. And, you know, it wasn't as if it was superlative or sensational play by Sevilla that cut us apart. It wasn't you know, world-class play. I think we have to start looking obviously at the front line, really, because if you think about it, obviously against Copenhagen as well as obviously against Sevilla, so in our two most recent matches, the fact is we've struggled in front of goal. Obviously, the only 2 goals that we've scored are both penalties, both obviously dispatched by Bruno. And I think the shots, I can't even remember what the statistics are because it's been some time since obviously the game. But I think over the 2 matches there was something like 46 shots or something like that. And obviously the fact is over those 2 matches, and the fact is that if the only goals you're scoring are penalties, then you have to lay the finger at the strike force, unfortunately, because that is just simply not good enough for them not to be able to score. You see, for example, obviously Bayern Munich against Barcelona, their defence was quite suspect in that match. Obviously, if you know, but it doesn't matter even as they conceded 2. Obviously, they got 8 back because obviously in front of goal, it doesn't matter how bad you know, unless your defence is absolutely atrocious. It doesn't matter how bad your defence is in parts, as long as your attack is lethal. And that's obviously that unfortunately is that against top teams and in big crucial matches, it's your attackers that are the most important.
Yeah,
and they have to score those goals, and they've had a real sort of puzzling, especially given how well they were, obviously how many goals they were scoring when we first came back from lockdown. But it's obviously quite frustrating and annoying that they couldn't score the goals. I totally agree with Jessica as well about the fact that there's obviously the substitutes as well. That's, in terms of partially how we lost the game, it's the fact that they should have come on a lot sooner. Because basically the sort of school of thought might be that, and I think a lot of us agree with this, is that the quality or depth of quality on the bench is not good enough. And that's why potentially Ollie's not willing to use them, because he obviously feels that he can't rely upon them, obviously, to change the match. But in which case, someone made quite a good point as well, which is that don't use them at all then. Why even bring, I think Juan Mata came on in about 88th minute as the first substitution. Why even put him on at that point? Because it's literally pointless. No player, even if it's like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer himself, like prime Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is going to affect a game in that amount of time. Okay, they may well do, but it's incredibly unlikely within like a 5-minute period. You need at least 15-20 minutes to try and impact the game and make a mark on it. And I think they scored in about 75th minute, somewhere in that region. So we still had 15 minutes or so to get back in the match. And I can't remember a single chance that we created at all. That's also quite, that was also another incredibly disappointing thing, was the fact that even when we went, obviously the goal down, was that I was expecting, and that's again, my own fault really, because obviously of watching United of old, when we had all the quality, and we always used to get late goals and always used to push forward and throw the kitchen sink. But in this particular match, United had it didn't seem as though they had any urgency whatsoever. There were, like I said, there was no real trying to stretch the play, pushing on, creating chances, shots, and all of them, I think, all of them appeared shot shy at that point as well. I don't think no one was taking a risk. Well, obviously, once we went a goal down, they all seemed to cower. No one seemed to step up, and I include absolutely every player in that. Not one of them decided to take the game by the scruff of the neck and make a chance or show some quality. So yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? I know that Jessica wanted to jump in there.
Sorry, go ahead.
Jessica, let me just go to the comments, but I'm going to let you come back and ask George the question. I just need to get the comments in. I'm going to say hello and thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Max has put a comment in there saying, in regards to Matic, Matic is a player who had one good season, one bad season. I'm not sure about that. Akil says, I thought Fred was good. The problem was we didn't finish. Agreeing with George. And defensively poor. I'm going to ask you about that. It goes, Dia is saying, look, Dia's got a long one. He's just going for it. Fred is a player who will grow into games only if he gets consistency. But the problem is that United can't afford to wait for that. We need instant impact and world-class players. There's loads of comments. I'm going to have to go through them in a little while. Jessica, go with the point that you wanted to get to George, please, if you can. Have we frozen? I think Jessica's frozen. I don't know how she's frozen
No,
in the heat of Canada. All right, yeah. What was the point you were going to ask, George?
I'm here. I was going to say, do you think that obviously Harry Maguire isn't vocal, obviously David De Gea isn't vocal, and we certainly at that moment in time when that goal went in needed someone to be kicking their asses, basically, right? Like a Roy Keane, like just yelling at them. And you saw a little of that in Bruno Fernandes. Do you think next season he should make Bruno the captain, or do you think he'll do that?
I think it's twofold really, which is that yes,
will he have the guts to do that?
Yeah, so I think that the first answer is yes in terms of he should make him the captain. I think we gave Maguire the captaincy very quickly anyway in terms of since he came in. So there's not obviously there's a school of thought that you have to almost sort of earn your spurs and have to be here a certain length of time for you to be captain. But obviously Maguire now has bucked that trend, so there's no excuse really for Ollie not to give it to Bruno in terms of showing the leadership qualities that really we want to commend him for. And ultimately I think Bruno would be a good captain, probably better than Maguire. But whether Ollie will do that, I doubt it, because he really does. He absolutely adores Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire obviously plays absolutely every single match. I think there was a statistic, wasn't there, from Manchester United Twitter, which was showing that, or it was from some site, which is that Harry Maguire's played the most amount of minutes in the entire world this season. I think when he was playing against Sevilla, so that shows that he just can't drop Harry Maguire. He literally plays every single minute of every single second. So I don't think there's any chance that Harry Maguire will lose the captaincy, particularly because I hear from obviously different things that you read and see in interviews and things like that.
Yeah,
I hear that he's organising all sorts of trips out, fining players if they don't turn up for the for the team bowling and all that sort of stuff. So I don't really see that Harry Maguire's going to lose his captaincy. So as I said, the twofold answer to that is potentially Bruno should be captain, but it's almost a moot point because Ollie's not got the stones to actually give it to Bruno instead and take it off Maguire. So
it looks like we've lost Jessica for a moment. I hope she's coming back soon. I don't know what happened there. She's there. I'm adding her back.
Sorry guys, I don't know what's wrong with my internet today.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you should pay the bill, Jessica. That's what you should do. Stop trying to fleece your neighbour's Wi-Fi. That's what that's why you're outside. You got their code.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I wish. I know the feeling. Do you know what? I'm going to disagree with both of you about Bruno being captain. I am. I saw the tweet in the week about Bruno being captain. I don't see him adding anything more to the Manchester United team than he's already added already. That he's already vocal. There isn't an extra 10, 15, 20% from Bruno with regards to being vocal in the team. And to be honest, Manchester United needs more than someone being vocal. What Bruno has added is energy, a directness, a kind of consistency in terms of play. He wants everything to be quick and direct, and he wants it to be constantly up and at him. What we saw in the game against Sevilla, who for me, were very, very smart, because what they did is they slowed the tempo down. And Manchester United don't know how to play football when it's slow. No. They only want it to be 100. They want it to be like a Premier League game. But in European football, you need to have a slightly more nuanced approach, which would have been probably better if you'd have played Juan Mata, because he has that tempo built in. It's a Spanish thing, and I don't mean it in a rude way, but they know how to slow the game down. And then when they need to, it's quick. The Premier League mindset is 100 miles an hour, and Bruno has fitted into that. With regards to him being vocal, I think we saw when the goal went in, he did not shy away from having a go at Lindelof. We know that. Maguire was nowhere to be seen with regards to pointing fingers. But if I asked everyone to go back and look at the goal when it was scored, when you slow down the actual play, and you see that Maguire leaves his central defensive position and goes out towards Williams for no apparent reason. There's no one there. Williams is doing a one-to-one, and Maguire has drifted out and he's not marking anyone. And the ball comes across. Lindelof is, I don't know what he's doing, and Wan-Bissaka believes that Lindelof is going to cut the ball out. For me, looking at just those moments, I don't think for a minute, apart from them, everyone saying Maguire's not a captain, it's his defensive positional play needs to be looked at. But in terms of his captaincy, I don't know how that's going to be any different. The issue is that Man United didn't take the chances.
Oh, for sure.
15 minutes after the second half, Martial had 3 one-on-ones that you would have expected him, not anyone else, but you would have expected him to score, along with Greenwood shot, the ball literally coming off of Bruno's midriff when the keeper saves it. Rash, there were so many chances, and I'll throw this in the mix with Manchester United. I didn't think they were going to win that game, as much as I loved the team. I didn't think. Sevilla did a number on United last time in the Champions League because they knew what to do. This Sevilla team had a 34-year-old right back and a 32-year-old central midfielder who used to be a number 10. He can't run anymore. Ever Banega gave the ball away like 10 times. He didn't even try and track back. He just walked. Man United lost that game against 10 men. That's the reality. So we can't, as much as we talk about the captaincy, when you look at that statistic, when you look at Ever Banega, who literally walked the game, I haven't seen anyone move that slowly since I watched Pirlo play against England for Italy. Honestly, he looked like he had his slippers on. Manchester United need, for me, I looked at that game and I thought, apart from the substitutions, apart from not taking your chances, apart from a lapse in concentration at the back, there is something that we can say is slightly missing. And it isn't just about going and getting Jadon Sancho, which everyone's still talking about. It's about actually having someone in your midfield who can control the game at a decent tempo, knows when to slow it down, knows when to quicken it up, and can create chances for strikers who will put them away. And, as much as I pulled those things out and said they're not, those are the things that went wrong, I couldn't have looked at that game and said they had a bad game. It just wasn't their night. If those in that first 15 minutes after the second half, if the goals had gone in, we have a different conversation. We have a very different conversation. We're talking about being in the final. We're talking about, this is Ole's chance. But I look at it and I think, 20 shots in total, 20 shots, 7 on target. So there's a lot of shooting going on, but nothing's actually making the keeper. So the saves that the keeper make look great, but 7 out of 20 is what, a third. For a 90-minute, when you talk about the front three of Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, Fernandes behind him, Pogba behind him, you're just thinking, seriously, 20, only 7 on target? Come on. You would expect Ole to get 7 shots on target and he'd score 5.
Yeah, somebody said that they should just bring Ole on. He would have scored the goal.
Yeah, he might be. He might be there. He's he's saying that. Let's stop those horrible things.
He would have. All he had to do was stand by the goalpost. If they'd passed it to him, he would have whacked it in. It would have been perfect.
Yeah. I know that I've already asked you guys about who didn't do. Who do we blame? I don't want to point fingers at people. Because there are certain things you look at, you think, didn't do that. Who did well? Who did well in that game for you? And how would you rate them? If you rated them out of 5, who did well? And out of 5, what would their rating be? I know I've got that there. Come on, guys, get your comments in. Who did well? What would their rating be out of 5? We're not doing 10s. I haven't got time for 10s. Too much maths. There we go.
I think Bruno did well.
Yeah. Bruno.
I think the goalie on the other, Seville goalie did well.
Out of 5 for Bruno, what would he be? 4 out of 5?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. 4 out of 5. George, who did well for you?
Pogba.
I've got to be honest, he did have a good game. I thought he had a good game, but
especially in the second half. I think the first half he had moments, but I thought in the second half, like honestly, I really thought they were going to win till that goal went in. It was terrible.
Obviously, the midfield, even with Fred in there, and Fred, because to be honest with you, Fred, much as I might criticise him often, and I don't feel that he's starting 11 material. He did have a very good game. There was nothing really that Fred did that was too terrible that I can remember against. And like I said, so the midfield battle we did definitely win. And like I said, all three of those players, Fred, Bruno, and Pogba, all played very well. It's just like I said, obviously the defence in slight moments, lapses of concentration, and obviously we're talking about positional sense and things like that, which are just small moments in a match, but they can cost you, unfortunately. And obviously, ultimately, the strike force, all those statistics about shots and things like that. So it's not necessary that I think that we didn't have control of the match or couldn't dictate the play, because obviously the shot count, the supremacy in that way, and the fact that we were creating so many chances, which we did against both Copenhagen and Sevilla, shows that we are dominating these matches. It's just that the strikers just can't put the ball in the back of the net.
Goal.
Do you know what's really...
Brandon Williams. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I thought everybody's criticizing Brandon Williams, but I thought he had a pretty solid game, except for the goal he let.
No, do you know what? Two things.
I thought he had a really good game. I thought there were some of those tackles that went in were phenomenally good.
Yeah, I don't blame him for the equaliser. Don't blame him. Very simple rule: stop the cross. Stop the cross.
Yeah.
So on the right-hand side, because Aaron Wan-Bissaka basically doesn't believe that player is going to accelerate, he's just jogging back. He's not sprinting back. And the guy literally gets ahead of him, couple of steps, and he gets the ball over. You've got to stop the cross. And therefore, because all of the defence are moving across towards the ball, Williams has no idea that the guy's that close behind him. And to be honest, the finish was great, because if he was a right-footed player, that shot would have probably been saved. But because he used his left and he curled it away from the keeper, it made it look like Williams' fault. Second goal, again, Williams is at fault because he doesn't stop the cross. He doesn't stop the cross, and therefore Aaron Wan-Bissaka is daydreaming, and he doesn't track the man. So on both fullbacks, in terms of basic defending, whether you're talking to children of 7, 8, 9 years of age, you tell them, stop the cross. You therefore don't allow your defenders, your centre backs, to worry about anything coming across the box, because it's a lottery. Then, the percentages of something going wrong are high. Doesn't matter how good you are, something's going to go wrong. But I thought he had a decent game, and this is a game that he'll learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. He's young.
Listen,
so young.
The only way you learn is whether you pick yourself up off the floor, and I think he's got that about him. He's not going to feel sorry for himself. He learned. You could see that in the game. He was learning about how things were going. He was becoming. You could see he was reacting in a way which was slightly more cuter. He wasn't reacting. Wasn't trying to get in other players' face. Doing all of that. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking to myself, in a couple of years' time, you will be fine. The only, I think there's a criticism I have about him is that he can't cross with his left foot. But that's, we've been that. I've mentioned that before, but in terms of that game, I thought he was great. You know what George said about the supremacy of Manchester United's, in terms of the shots on target, and for both the games, the game against Sevilla, they only had 46% possession, Man United. They had more shots. They had, twice as many plus shots than Sevilla. But Sevilla dominated possession of that game, for a long time. So United's play, as apart from creating chances and it's up and at them and 100 miles an hour, just to look at that game alone, I think Manchester United, Ollie will learn a lot about what the team need to do and about what he needs to do in terms of management. George, you were right about substitutions, and to be honest, I honestly think Ighalo, he must think he's in Vegas, because he looks like he's put weight on. I'm telling you, he looks slim when he turned up. He looks like he's in the gym. He's looking like Lukaku did. when he came off. Didn't he look, for me, didn't he look like a bodybuilder when he got, I was like thinking, he looks bigger. He looks like he's been doing some bench press all day long. So,
he's definitely the sort of player he should have brought on early because he wants it, and he probably, he's around the box, and I don't know why I think Ole said it himself in the interview I saw. They said to him, "Why didn't you bring the substitutes on?" And he said, "I that's my fault. That's my lack of judgment," or something. He didn't say lack of judgment, but he said it was he's definitely said it was my fault. And I do think he was just overthinking everything and looking, way ahead of where he should have been.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's one of those things though where how often do you let Ollie get away with it though? Because but being honest with you, right? Obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a legend.
I told you.
Let me take a drink.
I told you, Rodney.
He's a legend of the club, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But how long do we let him get away with? 3 semi-finals in a row in a season, obviously. And if this happens again next season, how many chances should Ollie get? Because I do feel like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he is a legend of the club and because everyone likes him so much, that he gets away with a lot more than anyone else would do. And particularly on for example, on Twitter, you won't see a more protected person than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Right, do you know what, George? I want people in the comments to get in there. So, and George, I don't want to even take words out of your mouth and phrase them a different way. You pose the question, George. You pose it. Is Ollie? How long are we going to give Ollie protection? Is that what you're saying? Or I don't want to say.
How long will people? How many excuses will Ollie be allowed to have, or how many chances will Ollie be allowed to have before people start, criticizing? Because, like I said, it almost feels like he's always Teflon in terms of nothing will stick to him. So that it does feel like that. Obviously, what I would say is, like obviously I have said before previously, is that the style of play since lockdown, obviously when he's had Bruno, Pogba, Matic, whatever, obviously that midfield and strikers and stuff, the style of play has been a lot better. So in that sort of sense, it has been a lot better, and it's particularly since the start of last season, it's the style of play is a lot better. But at the same time, is it not? If I think United, I'm pretty sure we're the first team to ever get to the semi-finals in FA Cup, a League Cup, and a Europa League, or whatever, and lose all of them. Any team ever. So that's the thing, is that in those big matches, and like I've already said, in all 3 of those matches, you could argue that he didn't play his strongest team. And in all 3 of those matches, you could argue he made some key errors in terms of formations and personnel. You could argue that. So, like I said, it's just a thought really, because I do feel like he's given more leeway and more scope from fans just because he is so loved. So if that was like Mourinho or Van Gaal or Moyes or something like that.
From Mourinho, oh my God, I have to say, I did not go on social media on Sunday. Oh yeah, Sunday, right? Because I just was not interested in listening to all the Ole Out and Meltdown, and I was very, very shocked that even the channels on YouTube that are tend to be like that, nobody said it. Nobody. I haven't seen anything saying Ole Out really.
Yeah, they sense the mood. Before you go on, Joe, I know that was really good about being protected. I need to just go to the comments really quickly because there's some. Dia says he's rating Pogba as a 5. Akil says, I think we're taking so much away from Pogba, playing him in that deep role. I wouldn't mind Ollie swapping him and Bruno's position. Ouch. I'd like to see that conversation in the dressing room. Mad Marcus says, yes, Jess, and he's done that. I don't know. Max says, Williams lost his man like the whole defence for the first goal and for the second goal. He let the cross come in and none of the defenders challenged for the ball. There is that. Dia says, our defenders need to be more focused and do the minimum, stop the cross, indeed, clear the ball, be cautious and sharp to the last second. Yeah, what's this? Akil says, I disagree on Williams. He's a young defender and works hard, but was at fault for the goals and didn't offer much going forward, and he had a bad game. Do you know what? I'm going to come back to that point, really. And this is the one that's jumped out at me, really. Agenda against Williams, Rodders. No, I don't have an agenda. I don't have an agenda. Do you know what it is? I like Brandon Williams, right? I'll be honest with you. I like him. But this is very clear. We are in a position of creating another Ashley Young. And people will be like, he's a lot better than Ashley Young. Ashley Young started out as a winger. You have a right-footed defender who has been coached in the academy to play on the left-hand side, and he cannot kick with his fucking left foot. I am blaming the coaches. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. He's a child, and therefore the adults are being blamed. Not the player. He's a child. Let him get to 21, 22, 23 and he still hasn't corrected that shit. Then I'm going to go for him. As simple as that. But you know what I mean? Shots fired. I'm dropping anchor now so that everyone realizes we have seen players played out of position for a long time on the left-hand side. And he is a right-footed left back. That simple.
Do you know who I blame?
So yeah. Yeah, sorry?
Do you know who I blame for this is I blame the United, whoever's in charge, whether it's Ed Woodward in terms of transfers or scouts or whatever, of not picking up Alphonso Davies when he was recommended. That's who I.
Do you know what? The thing is with Williams, I like him a lot as a left back. I think he only played him at right back for a short game, and he looked lost. He didn't know whether to go forward or come back. He was caught in between the ball. He had a clue. This is a boy who's played at left back for a very long time. But I want him to be coached the right way. We keep talking about the academy system. We keep talking about the United way. If you're going to play someone who's right-footed, at least make them two-footed, at least. Come on, you're training every fucking day of the week. He hasn't got a job. He's not delivering papers. Hello? Fuck's sake, man.
I should get you.
Holy, Rodney.
Do you know what I mean? No, but I'm serious. How can you play on the left-hand side and keep coming back on your right-hand side? What will happen? There will be a game which is key, and all we'll talk about is him not being able to cross with his left. He's a defender first. I want him to defend. If you're going to ask him to attack, you know, I would ask politely those in the coaching staff at Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and all of the other adults around the boy, to tell him, stay behind for an hour and learn how to kick the ball with your left, okay? Learn to chip it, learn to curl it, learn to cross it, learn to do whatever you need to do, but so that you look like you're balanced, instead of every time you go up, you come in on your right-hand side. It doesn't work. We saw it with Ashley Young, and we slated Ashley Young, so much so, he ran to Italy. Please, protect the fucking boy.
You should send him a message, Rodney, and tell him, come on, dude,
it's
make
just
sure.
Basics. Come on, it's just, George, am I saying anything wrong? It's just basic common sense.
No, it's true.
I'm just looking ahead. I'm looking ahead to protect him. I don't want him to get outed by the fans because he can't cross with his left. He's a defender first and foremost. And the issue that we have, and we've seen it with the whole Jadon transfer saga, we keep talking about we need someone on the right-hand side. And because Aaron Wan-Bissaka can't cross for fucking toffee, we blame him. He's a defender. He's a fucking defender. He defends. But you're blaming him because he can't cross.
He's got
so
quite
come
a
on.
list, though, hasn't he, this season as well, Wan-Bissaka?
He has, but what he's great at is defending.
Yeah,
that's his job. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like thinking, don't keep trying to add additional responsibilities to a defense. Let's just let him defend. Let him defend. Yeah.
We need a Stevie Coppell flying down the wing, crossing that ball. That's what we need.
You know, it's not an agenda. For me, it's not an agenda. I'd look at it and I'd be like, you know what? I can see what's going to happen in 2 years' time. He'll get roasted. We'll come up against someone in the Champions League and they'll look at him and they'll think he can't kick with his left. I'm going to do him. I'm going to bring him to the edge of the penalty box. I'm going to do a jink and he's going to lunge in and I'm going to go over. That's it.
The only thing I would say on that is that 2 years is a long time in football, especially for a young player in terms of development.
Of course.
Even if you think about Manchester United, let's say 2018 when we played Sevilla, obviously the last time, so literally a couple of years ago, and you saw our team that night. Obviously, there was a photo of the team lineup, going around Twitter or whatever. 6 of the players there that we were playing starting that night are now no longer part of Ollie's team. Obviously,
Exactly.
players like Young,
Exactly.
Lukaku, and stuff like that. So football is definitely is an incredibly fast game in terms of how it moves on. So in 2 years, there's a case that he can probably develop, but ultimately, obviously, left back is one of the 6 positions I've identified that we need to sign someone in, because obviously you could also make a case for Brandon Williams, matter that he's been thrown in the deep end too often this season already, because what is he, 18, 19, something like that, and he's already sort of. And when you're playing left back, it's not like when you're a striker or a midfielder.
Yeah.
When you're a defender and you're very young, you one single mistake. If you're a midfielder or attacker, no one really cares. You can obviously shoot as many times as you want, and unless it's like consistent, people won't make a big deal out of it. But as a defender, obviously, I actually agree with Jess as well. I think that he had a very good game against Sevilla. I think he was, he was incredibly tenacious. Got stuck in, and obviously had a lot of heart and battle and fight and things like that, which is what I love to see. And like I said, it was just 2 moments in the game, which obviously goes back to the point about obviously a young player thrown in the deep end.
Yeah.
Two lapses of concentration, 2 goals. It's game over, unfortunately. And like I said, hopefully he's going to sort of, which he will in a way, because obviously he's still young. He'll sort of mature, and that those sort of errors will come less and less. Obviously, you were talking about Harry Maguire, but obviously he's got no excuse, has he? I think he's like 27 now, isn't he? 26, 27.
20,
so.
I think he's 27 probably,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, I've got a lot of time for Williams. I just want, coming from and Jessica knows this, you work in education, you see the weakness first and you work on the weakness. Do you know what I mean? And you work in education, and the first thing you do to anyone is you say to them, what do you think you need to work on? You don't tell them, you ask them to be reflective. And you would hope that as a young person, they go, I'm not good at this. And you go, right, okay, we're going to work on that, because you want them to take on ownership of their development. I'm looking at this, and Ollie's been praised, McKenna's been praised, Phelan's been praised, Carrick's been praised. The boy can't kick with his fucking left. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, what?
there is one thing I want to bring up on just on that point as well. I saw Ruud van Nistelrooy being interviewed by Oxford University Union, I think it was. It's a video on sort of YouTube, so people can check out if they want to, because it was a fascinating insight into one of our obviously the best strikers that played for United in my lifetime, certainly. Someone who was, incredibly ruthless and clinical. Just, probably, if anything, the best finisher, out and out finisher of my lifetime that's played for Manchester United, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Incredible striker. But obviously, the reason I brought it up in relation to the point you just made is that you said, obviously, as a teacher, you would look to work on people's weaknesses, and obviously, really, try and resolve upon them. And Ruud van Nistelrooy, during that interview, came up with a point where he said, it's obviously this is a matter of opinion. It's whether you work on the weaknesses and obviously try and improve and ameliorate them and make them better, or you really focus on someone's strengths and you really sort of hone them so that you're almost the best you can be at that particular strength. And it was quite interesting, because for Ruud van Nistelrooy, he said that when he had that sort of decision or dilemma to make, or decision to make, I should say, regarding that dilemma, he decided that he would improve his strengths. And so he decided that he would we all know that Ruud van Nistelrooy is obviously finishing and his positional sense as well, in terms of always being on the last man on the shoulder, those sort of things, and always being in the right place at the right time to score these goals, and, really honing his craft. He decided to do it that way. So I thought I'd just sort of bring that up, because obviously it's quite an interesting, debate for people to have with other people, is whether it is better to, obviously it'd be better to do both, really, wouldn't it? Ideally, you want to improve your strengths and your weaknesses as well. But if you've got the choice, sometimes it can be, and obviously Ruud van Nistelrooy said he himself did it this way. He said that he really did concentrate on his strengths and made them as good as he possibly could, because he wasn't obviously the quickest in the world as a striker. So there were weaknesses in his game, but he decided that he would concentrate on those strengths and really sort of build them up, and that was his decision. So like I said, I thought it was just quite an interesting point to make. regarding that. So
no. What I'll do is I found the actual link, YouTube link. I'll post it in before we end. I was only planning to do 45 minutes. We've literally hit that time. We're going to carry on until 8:30, if that's all right with George and Jessica. So I can ask you. Apart from, there are two main things I want to ask you. I think we've done to death the actual semi-final. We didn't take our chances. Basically, we didn't take our chances, and it wasn't the worst performance that we've seen from Manchester United. And yeah, just one of those days, really. That's what you got to put it down to. Small errors individual, but nothing glaring that you can say they need to be dropped or need to be solved. I think generally it was a positive game and something that we can look at and go, almost. Two things. First thing, transfer rumors or transfer acquisition, whatever you want to label it as. I'm not even going to say the name. I've already mentioned it previously. If there was one player or one position that we needed to strengthen or focus on, what would it be? And knowing that we have the fixtures up and running right now, and with what we already know, where do you believe Manchester United will finish next season? I know Jessica loves that question.
I said 8th for this season. How wrong was I?
Well, then you should feel really happy.
I am. I'm very happy with what happened.
Yeah, but listen, I know you're not saying that now. Before you go on to where they'll finish, first, Jessica, I know you already thought about that. What position do Man United need strengthening in, and who would you go for?
I don't know. I just, in some ways, I feel like they need to just really, really develop what they've got in some ways. Because I don't know, I think that what we saw on Sunday, if they could just get over that, whatever that block is, it's not a half bad team, It's not a half bad team. And I do wonder if they bring a lot of people in, which I highly doubt, whether the balance will change. I don't know, honestly.
So you're sitting on the fence there, Jessica.
I am sitting on the fence. I do think it would be, Stevie Coppell is my most favorite player ever for Manchester United.
So you're talking about a winger then?
Yeah. Somebody who flies down the wing and can cross that ball, and Rashford can just in.
Okay. All right then. So you're saying basically in a roundabout way.
Does it have to be Sancho?
No. I didn't say the name. I'm just saying a winger. Okay, fine. Okay, right. Where do you think United will finish?
Oh my God. I'm going to say they'll finish top 4.
Okay.
Probably
top
4.
Fourth. Yeah. Okay, right. George, can you add any? Are you going to throw someone on the right wing, or are you going to go somewhere else?
I'm not. I'm going to go right wing as well. I think. Okay. I think ultimately, football's quite a simple match. You score more goals than the other team, and you win. As I think Michael Owen once said.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we need. The last two matches have proven that we need someone who is going to create more chances so that we can get more goals, and who can score and make assists. And ultimately, there's not really a player that is obtainable that is better than Jadon Sancho in that facet. So, like I said, it has to be Jadon Sancho for me. And obviously, we do need, as we all know, we do need options. Particularly we actually need options, to be fair, in multiple positions. But I think up top, someone who can play in a couple of different positions, and Jadon Sancho sort of ticks all the boxes. In terms of where we're going to finish, I predicted last season before a ball was kicked, I predicted we'd finish 4th.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I'm pleased. Obviously, we did come 3rd, so I was wrong, but. What I would say is that it's incredibly difficult to predict where we're going to finish, because I remember after the summer transfer window had closed last August, everyone was saying that Arsenal were going to get top 4. because everyone was raving about all the signings they'd made, particularly Nicolas Pepe, who turned out, well, there's potential he could turn out to be very good. So I won't sort of say anything about him now. But it's to be honest with you, he had a very poor season. But like I said, a lot of people, a lot of pundits, if you go back on, and I was quite. I thought Arsenal would do much better than they did. Obviously, I thought that there was a good potential they were going to get top four. And we all saw that they had a nightmare season, really finishing 8th or wherever they finished. So that's just an example that there's always that thing, and there's bound to be this season as well. There's always a surprise, and it never quite goes the way you think it will go. Because obviously a lot of people didn't think United would get top four either, which was quite justifiable again, because obviously we didn't get Bruno at that point, did we? Or we didn't get a striker. We knew we needed those positions and we didn't get them. And we were very lucky, obviously, that Bruno came in when he did, and that obviously the other teams above us bottled it, ultimately Leicester particularly, from such a massive, almost unassailable lead. It required us to win all our matches almost, but also for them to lose a lot of matches, and they did. But as I said, that's my sort of feeling on it, is that whatever I predict now, and I am going to predict in a moment, but whatever I predict, it's unlikely to come true because, like I said, there's always, we just don't know. Yeah. There's always that thing. There's always, for example, Spurs, obviously, but not a lot of people are talking about them. But Jose Mourinho is a master. I mean, he got 81 points with our, rubbish team. Got us to obviously second position with some of the, So he is almost a serial. He will squeeze every single drop out of a team to try and get them to. So they are definitely a dark horse in terms of getting top four. So what I would say is that the competition for top four is never going to be fiercer. I don't think there's going to be a case this next coming season that every team will be as poor as they were, other than Liverpool, and obviously City fought back at the very end. But I don't think everyone's going to be as poor as they're going to be. And we have seen as well already with Chelsea, obviously getting Werner, Ziyech, probably Havertz as well. Obviously their defence isn't very good, but they might get a defender or two in as well. And we've seen with City getting a few players in. I would say, and obviously Liverpool, you would think even if they will have a drop off, you would think they're not going to fall too far off. So again, I would sort of echo what Jessica said, which is top four. And I will say, and obviously you said fourth as well, Jess. When I kind of think that as well, because I think Chelsea are really looking strong now, and I think they're probably, unless we sort of dig something out. But I do think I will say fourth as well. Yeah. I can't. I can't really move past that as a sort of feeling. I hope though, because if we show the form that if we're lucky with injuries, and neither Bruno nor Pogba or Matic, all those key players don't get any injuries, we can challenge for the title. But unfortunately, they will get injured. So that's where we'll see a drop off. And I think top four would probably be our ceiling again for the next season.
Top four. To be honest, I have to say it's quite positive in a sense. I can't see anything. I wouldn't say worse than top four. I'd have to say that. I would say that they got to third place generally because Leicester tripped over their own shoelaces. They did a Keystone Cops version of football. I don't know what they were doing, or whether that was Brendan Rodgers overthinking things and them not having a big enough squad, or just being nerves. Who knows? But Man United were very fortunate. In terms of the player, I mean, there's been so much talk about, Jadon Sancho. Once you have something in your mind, it's very difficult to try and think of another position, like, where do they need strengthening? But the minute they get Jadon Sancho, someone's going to say, but they need a central DM, and then they need a right back, and then they need a left back. You know what they need? They need a striker. They need an out-and-out
striker. Yeah.
They need an out-and-out goal-hanging 20, and I'm saying this very slowly for the hard of hearing, 20 league goals. Not 20 goals in all competitions. 20 league goals. Let me say it very slowly again. 20 league goals. Yeah, this is not about making statistics. This isn't Donald Trump's math lesson. You're making shit up. This is, if you're not scoring
think-
20 league goals,
I don't think Zlatan got 20 either, did he? In that really good season he had. I don't think he got 20 league goals in that.
He didn't score. He did what he did in that season was take the heat off of a team that didn't have any confidence. That's what he did. That was a team that had Fellaini and Mata was still playing and Smalling and Jones. You know what I mean? He took the heat
You're
off
making me
of
depressed.
all of those players. So his ego alone made United win games when really they should have lost. Yeah, they got to second. They won a Europa League competition. They should never have been anywhere near any of those things. The alarm should have gone off the minute they stepped in the building. Everything would have been like, what are they doing there? No, I don't know how Jose did it, but he did it. So, you know, they need for me, they need a striker. I'm not saying Jadon Sancho isn't a good player. I'm not saying he isn't one of the best prospects out there and he isn't very talented and he's most wanted. And, you know, he would light up any game and any team and any league, you know. But what Manchester United they need a goal scorer, you know. And it's for all the will in the world, all of the media pundits, whether they're on radio, on television or wherever, whatever platform they're on, you can't keep, you know, accumulating goals in Carabao Cup, FA Cup and League and trying to squeeze them together and make something that isn't real. If you're not scoring 20 league goals, your team ain't winning shit. Your team isn't winning anything at all. And the bottom line is the league is the most important. I get the Premier League, I get all of those things, and we can say that he scored. Martial's had a great season, Rashford's had a great season, Greenwood's had a great season. Man United haven't won anything. They haven't won anything. You need a goal scorer. You know, and we point back to the semi-final. Martial had 3 one-on-ones, and normally he'd score. He didn't score. Rashford didn't score. Greenwood, you know, he's still developing. He didn't score. And then we didn't have, and then the other striker that we had on the bench, you bring him on the 89th minute. I mean, like seriously, if you had a really strong alternative as a number 9, someone who scores you goals, Oli doesn't forget about making substitutions. Oli doesn't have the, oh, guess what? I made a mistake. There's none of that. Oli would be ruthless. He's going to look at his striker and goes, you're going on. And one of those 3 are coming off. I don't care what they feel like when they sit down. Don't give a shit. Go on and score me goals. And he didn't have that. So those guys that everyone keeps talking about will feel great. To add Jadon Sancho to that, there's no guarantee he's going to score 20 league goals. And all you're going to have is another person who looks great, creates chances, but Man United are not going to win anything. Even with everything that you said, both of you, wingers, Jadon Sancho, you still said 4th. You still said 4th.
I just really don't have confidence. My thing with this team is there is some sort of mental block with them where they just don't seem to be able to get over to have that killer, we are going to win thing. But Rodney, I have to tell you one really funny thing, because you weren't present on Sunday in the chat. Everybody was talking about Fellaini coming on. He would come on and make the difference. Can you believe that? I was laughing so hard.
I can remember when I was just so horrible to him and just be like, my brother would be like, he'd be like, no, you don't get it. And I'd be constantly arguing with him. He's like, no, you don't understand. He's the answer to the question that no one knows. And for about 2 years, he kept saying that. And then it literally, there was a game that I can't even remember which game I was at, sitting in the East Stand. I mean, and I think he came on a sub, and we looked at each other, and my mate Matt, and I said, he's going to score, isn't he? And Matt went, do you think? And he came on and he scored, and we just looked at it. Everyone in the East Stand was just going like this.
Versus Arsenal, that did 2-1.
But it might have been, and I honestly, everyone just looked at each other and was like, you know, it's almost like a sign of recognition. Everyone just went, we can't keep giving this guy stick. Just like, we just, you know what I mean? No matter what we say, when he comes off, he scores a goal when we don't want him to come on. And I just thought, yeah, we need to stop now. I thought I need to stop now. So that is funny to hear people were asking for Fellaini. Is, you know, that's quite funny. It is funny, really, because heavily used by Jose and Van Gaal.
Yep.
And Van Gaal were heavily used, and the guy. And look at it. He came from Everton, and he's won trophies, and he's gone elsewhere. So there's someone who's squeezed every ounce of his ability out in terms of his footballing career.
Yeah.
Definitely. We're literally running. Almost running out of time. I'm going to ask you, George. Is there anything you want to say before we dash out the building? And Jessica's already outside. I think her neighbours know she's using their Wi-Fi. I'm telling you.
I moved closer to the house.
What was your final question going to be, Rodney? You had said you had 2 points. What was the second point?
No, the second point was in terms of where would you finish?
Oh, right.
Where would you finish? That was generally it. And I know it's too soon to say, really, because it really you should ask that question once you've played 3 or 4 games. But just for entertainment, I thought I'd throw it in. Everyone's talking about Jadon Sancho, and this is what I suppose I'll end with this. If Jadon Sancho, if the pursuit of him doesn't materialise in terms of an actual player wearing a red Manchester United shirt, if you were to think of one name very quickly, who would you be happy? Because I know that there's this someone from Bournemouth. Who would you be happy to see Manchester United go and buy? And I genuinely mean who you'd be happy to see, not just who you think they'll buy.
It's very difficult, isn't it? I think there was one quite incredibly sort of damning stat that I saw, that Bayern Munich starting 11 last night or whatever it was would cost 80 million altogether.
Yeah.
And that just for me sums up United perfectly, really, in terms of just, unfortunately, even if obviously, regardless of whether you think Ollie's the man for the job, or obviously you've also had Jose Mourinho, Van Gaal, obviously managers who have won multiple trophies, all tried it. But it's, obviously a poor workman blames their tools, but sometimes obviously your tools or your players are just not good enough, and they're the real sort of key ingredients here. We can obviously blame the Glazers, quite rightly. We can blame obviously all different types of people, but it always comes down to the players not being good enough, and the fact that we've spent so much money that comparatively to other big teams on so many bad players, and it's all down to our recruitment. So it doesn't fill me with any great hope that we're going to be able to sign someone who will be very good for us at a cheap price. And really, I think it's basically, for me, it's either it's Sancho or bust. I do want some other players as well, but I also want Jack Grealish as well, but I don't think we're going to get him if we do get Sancho. But all the players that were mentioned, obviously, I know obviously the lads did a show on Sancho alternatives recently. There was no one of those, not one of those players did I want or I thought was going to be good enough for United. So it's bad for me. It's Sancho or no
Sancho or nothing. Very well. To be honest, I like that thinking. Jessica, if the Sancho deal doesn't materialise, who would you be happy? Who you think the club would? Who would you be happy to see come in?
Can I choose my favourite person that's never going to come? I'm going to say...
Is he retired?
Yeah, well...
Stevie Coppell.
Stevie Coppell. Oh, he should have married me. That's what he should have done. I was only 13 years old, but it's okay.
There's a law against that.
I love Stevie Coppell. I remember watching him at Highbury, sitting right on the edge of the pitch, watching him in live.
Get back in the room, Jessica. Back in the room.
Yeah, I'm going into my wonderland. I'm going to say Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish.
You'd be happy with Jack Grealish. To be honest, I have to say to be honest, I can understand that. I think I would like to see Jimenez. I've talked about a striker.
That's a good one too.
I would like to see Jimenez if they don't get Jadon Sancho. I believe Man United need a striker, and they need a number 9. They need a number 9, someone who can score goals, someone who's a good link-up player. I don't know whether or not Ighalo is going to be the guy, whether he's going to get the time. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to throw this little curveball in just before we go. That if Man United don't announce that they've bought Ighalo outright because they can't go and get a number 9, be surprised.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised either. I would.
When Ighalo goes, that obviously because it's quite an awkward time, isn't it? I think he finishes in January, doesn't he? To obviously to go back to China.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I am hoping
Yeah.
that, and I think there'll definitely be rumours of it, that it'll be Erling Haaland next season. The season after, so 2021-22.
Listen.
I think you're living in La La Land.
I'm betting that he's going to be the big transfer story. George.
My word.
George, before we go, this week, do you know what, George? I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not even gonna counter your comment. I'm gonna leave it there. We need to do another one of these. I think we need to come back and us three have a little chit chat about this whole Erling Haaland. It won't be soon, but I'm gonna say enough's enough. But I remember that. There was one comment. Let me see if I can find it. There, has it gone? Has it gone? I think there was a. Oh, missed it. There was one person in terms of who they wanted. Oh, here it is. It was Dia. There he is. He says, Dia said, I would be happy to see Sancho, Alaba, Partey, and the striker, prolific, banging goals like the great Ruud van Nistelrooy. So basically, you want everyone of those players listed, Dia, or you want like the right leg of Alaba, the right leg of Ruud van Nistelrooy, Sancho's trickery, and Partey's strength. Is that what you want? I think that's what you want. I'm going to say thanks to George and Jessica. This has been really good. I've enjoyed myself today. It's been great.
Thank you. I'm going to give a shout out to my students just in case they watch to the end.
Yeah,
so
please do.
Tune in. Hi guys. Get going on your work though.
Make sure you do your work. Your tutor is watching or listening, definitely. Please do like, share and subscribe. Remember to do that, guys. It's the Real United Talk. We're a small channel and we're growing, we're trying our best. So what's this? Max says goodbye. Bye to everyone in the comments. Dia, Marcus, Akil, Deirdrick, who else is there? Chris is in the house. Max was there, I mentioned him. Blah 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 blah. There's so many. Have I missed anyone? Chris, but I mentioned you. Yeah, 2 minutes ago. Anyway, look, I'm going to go off and watch some. There's no football tonight.
No.
Can you believe it? There's no football. I would have been watching
tomorrow,
football,
right? It's the final.
Tomorrow, it's the final. Listen, how can I not do it? I've got to do it. One last comment before we go. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Who's going to win European? Who's going to win? Who's going to win?
I think Inter, and I think
Inter.
Bayern Munich on Sunday.
Yeah, Bayern Munich Sunday, Inter. Right, okay. Yeah, can't be. To be honest, yeah, I got to go with you, George. Got to be honest. The pragmatism of Bayern and their 80 million starting 11. Go figure. Right, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you all very soon. This is the Real United Talk. I'm Rodney Cyrus. That is George. That is Jessica. Please make sure you check us out on Twitter, and you know where we are. Just, what's your Twitter handle, Jessica?
United Girl Forever.
United Girl, George?
At George Kyle 9.
At George Kyle. I'm Rodney Cyrus. You know who I am. Stay tuned, peeps. See you later. Bye.